Though it shows off a lot of potential, Mace Griffin Bounty Hunter is not the Halo killer as it claims to be. Instead, it's a decent FPS worth its cheap price tag. It's an interesting mix of an older style first person shooter design as well as incorporating newer ideas for the time. Anyone that's watched Cowboy Bebop might start having flashbacks at hearing the premise of the game. You play in the far future, out on the fringes of civilization as Mace Griffin, an ex-ranger who was set up on a mission and would serve some serious time. After 10 years, he decided to turn over a new leaf and rebuild his life. Nah, not really. He quickly becomes a bounty hunter and tracks down the scum and villainy, pursuing those that screwed him over in the past. Yeah, the story is pretty much by the numbers here. It's a typical revenge plot's been done to death. For such a large setting though, there's a serious lack of emotion or character. Mace Griffin kinda just grumbles or mopes through most of the game, wasting dozens of bad guys without a word being spoken. They might have said some interesting stuff in the cutscenes, but glitches and background noises cover up whatever they're saying. Now you may be excused thinking that being a bounty hunter, you can choose what contracts you undertake, or maybe there's some sort of monetary system in place, but no, it's just a way to get you aboard a ship and fly to different locations. Mace Griffin, the game, not the character, is very linear. You can't choose what path to take in a mission or how you approach it. You'll constantly be fed objectives by an NPC to where to go, what to do, and of course who to kill. The level design is pretty directed. A lot of corridors, switches, filled with bad guys to kill. You never lost thanks to a waypoint marker and checkpoints that are generally well placed. The environments do give off a nice sense of scale and variation between missions. It can feel very repetitious at times. Areas often feel very copy and pasted, and there can be frequent load times. I say can be because there are some very impressive moments of the game involving the space fighting sections. Yep, besides shooting, once or twice in a level you have to venture out into space, usually to destroy some enemy craft. Flying a ship feels appropriately bulky yet maneuverable. Dogfights can be a lot of fun with asteroids and missiles flying past the screen. It's a great dynamic shift from running around on foot blowing away scumbags to cruising around in the stars. A really nice touch is that you can move around in the spaceship while it's still in flight. You can even visit a storeroom for ammo. But now, what makes an FPS an FPS? Mace Griffin's gunplay is mostly standard fare for few additions. They've added a lock-on feature to firefights, so it works pretty well at targeting enemies, though it directs the camera a bit too much. The weapons themselves are good fun to use. The typical machine gun is a rotary chain gun that shreds through enemies. The alternate fire on a pistol unleashes the throw on of bullets, giving it a bit more practicality. It isn't the smoothest shooting, the frame rate can really chug down in the slightly bigger environments, but it's not the worst. My big problem is the terrible damage scaling. Grenades and explosive weapons absolutely destroy your opponents, which is fine and dandy except you can be wiped out just as fast. This is acceptable when you're fighting a boss or in multiplayer maybe, but regular grunts can blow you away as soon as you see them. It can feel really lame and cheap, especially when you get owned by some wildlife because... somehow. An interesting yet unoriginal feature is the incorporation of a rebounding health system that works like Halo... oh wait, no, it works exactly like Halo. Yeah, I know it means nothing today, but considering when it came out in 2003, before it was a common gameplay mechanic in FPSs, is at least mentionable. Graphically, on foot, it's pretty uninteresting. Space sections can look good, but some really bad backdrops and dull textures hamper everywhere you go. On the other hand, the gun models look really good. The real frustration in Mace Griffin is that it shows moments of genius. One moment you're fighting in a control room, then you quickly hop into a fighter craft, enemy spaceships are whizzing past you, launching rockets at you or you repelling them, and then you board a cargo ship, killing everyone aboard, all on the same load screen. Now that's awesome. It really needed to have more of these dynamic levels, besides the cramped and enclosed areas in most of the game. There's nothing really wrong with Mace Griffin, but there's also nothing that makes it really noteworthy to track down and play. It does offer up some interesting concepts and ideas that could have been expanded on in a sequel, but you guessed it, there is no sequel. But I suppose its dirt cheap price will win you over for a decent shooter nonetheless.